Now let's look at Gen X. Some of you are Gen Xers. I see them here. Some of you have to live with Gen Xers. And let's talk about them a little bit. They live in the present. They design their own good life. And what happened then was they like to experiment and expect immediate results, but most importantly, because they were the improvisers, they didn't have to start at the bottom, work their way to the top, stay with the team. They worked here for a while, then they moved over. And then they worked there because they had learned about this, but that's a better opportunity. Then they married someone and her job was in another city, and they went there. And for a while they stayed home with the kids. And all of a sudden, what has happened to that rigid structure? And continually hear this in terms of how jurors feel about the establishment, about corporations, about, quote, doing the right thing, as opposed to the flexibility. Okay? Now, this generation was the one that everybody wanted to keep. This was the brain drain time in the late 90s. And there is so much written to this day. Fortune magazine and everything talks about the best place to work, because they keep trying to hang on to Gen Xers who learn in one place and say, see you later, I'm going over here. And the point is, because of their own flexibility, they don't understand corporate work, life, hierarchy, the way boomers do. They're in quite another place. I've done this, okay, now it's up to me. I will go. I don't owe. I don't belong. Next, they question authority and hierarchy and the establishment. They're self-focused, more cynical, and more independent. They make up their own minds. They don't just go with the group or buy what is said, particularly in the newspapers. They're very much at odds with their parents' goals and beliefs, and most of all, they resent the previous generation's mistakes. And they feel that they are on a new path. Now, there are Gen Xers here. Does it sound like you? Well, let me tell you, this is what jurors are. So suddenly we've got jurors who don't have this hierarchical experience about corporations, and you're doing a business case. This is a problem. They don't have to, they don't understand, and you need to fill in for them. Now we get to the real kick. Generation Y is sometimes called millennials. You will notice that. It's sometimes millennials, sometimes Generation Y. Generation Y because it was X before, so it kind of follows. Boy, have we got a whole new thing going. And you know what the most important one is? In the history of the world, as I have said to you, we started out because in the history of the world we communicated one way, verbally, visually. I need to see you. We need to experience each other. And then we began to change, television and computers. In the whole history of the world, people learned because older people knew more than younger ones did. Older people were there. They'd experienced it. You had professors, teachers, and apprentices to big masters. But the assumption was, if you live long enough, you sort of know more, and I better find out about it from you. Well, guess what happened? For the first time in history, the younger generation knows more than the older generation does. Because you know you're telling the younger ones, can you fix this? Can you program this? I can't get, I mean, maybe all of you are raving geniuses, but my grandchild fools around with my phone, you know, it's fine. Okay? So this is significant because they also decided you don't know anything of value. Hear how quiet it got? Since technology now has taken over their lives and you're not as cognizant or comfortable as they are, well then, why should I listen to you? What you're asking, can't you see this? And don't you have the three things going on at the same time? So Gen Y is rebellious in a very new way and has a very new set of mentors. Let me tell you about them. They're entrepreneurial. They improvise everything and anything. They walk into corporations where I work a great deal and say, just tell me what you need to do. I'll know how to do it. Meetings? What do you want a meeting for? I know how to do it. Just tell me what you want. You see? Because it is end product, end product, end product. And it comes fast. It doesn't have to do with what's the system, and consider that in terms of the law. What's the system? How has it always been done? What does the law provide so we keep going that way? These guys change it every day. I mean, they've already, this is too obsolete. I got to keep going. And you know, there was a recent article about the fact that by the time freshmen finish their senior year, they already need to learn new things because what they learned in their freshman is changed, particularly engineering. Okay. Game players is important because they're willing to try anything. There was a very important study done at Harvard about the fact that at a kind of a big fair where they had lots of electronic stuff, Gen X and Gen Y came to see what's the new stuff. Gen X came over and talked to the people about how does it work and what does it look like and how do you do it, and the person was demonstrating. Gen Y picked up the clicker, they're off and running, they're trying it. They don't care. First of all, they have learned it all by trial and error anyway. They do learn it on their own. And you're the experts who are going to be telling them what to think and what is right and the law, and this is what a contract is, it's not that. And you want them to take your word. These people who make it up themselves every day, who are very competitive but totally individualistic. They're self-involved. You know the thing with the labels and the trends, they're so involved in that. No respect for existing systems. Why should there be? They've blown them all. They have all new ones. They're irrelevant to them. They're not career-oriented. They don't see themselves going from here to there. They expect to have several careers. All the kids that I interviewed for the book are just unbelievable. I'll probably make up something, you know, by the time I'm 26, I'll be a millionaire. You know, that all that the dot-com stuff, I mean, that'll be no problem. And I certainly don't expect to have one job. No, I'll have several jobs. I'll have things that will interest me and see them all almost as part-time while they do it at home on the computer. They want to live lives with some meaning, however. They do care about that. They do want to see that something that they're doing has some value in some direction. And super technologically literate, as you know, and addicted. And they have no role models because they're in this whole new world. So their peers are their family. They love you, and they will stay connected to the family, but their peers are where they hear, and that's whom they will listen to for criticism. I've done a great deal about that, and they continually say they wouldn't get criticism from somebody up above. They get criticism from their peers because that they believe because they're on the same wavelength. So, how are you feeling? Tough, isn't it? Here's the most significant thing for you who are in the business of talking. This is how seniors and boomers learned. Just keep following it. That's true, right? There's no seniors here, but boomers, how about the boomers? Yeah, right? And older Xers maybe also had this experience. Now let's check out the other side. Okay? 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 Right? Now here's what's the most significant piece. 1 and 2. And they're sitting in the same jury box. This is key. Time is now utterly changed and limited. There is one more issue, and then we're going to start talking about how to fix it. Are you feeling bad so far? Do you think you better give up your careers? Okay. This is the ethnic mix in the United States. And these numbers, which were projected to 2050, they now believe will happen sooner by 2040. But I want you to study that carefully because that is who your juries are now and in the future. And what is most significant is what else you need to add for them because they do not come from countries that had juries. They grew up in very different governmental systems with very different attitudes towards what is correct, what is good behavior, what are citizens entitled to, what are they allowed, how do you get ahead, what does it cost to get ahead, who does get an education, who doesn't, and so forth. And what our world is like, and what we assume when you talk to other American jurors, native-born jurors, utterly different than what they bring to this country. And so there is a filling in place that you need to do to bring them up to speed and have them be on the same page, to let them know how things are here, How are things normally before you get into what has happened in your case, so that they're grounded